Hi there, my name is Marta. Welcome to my channel where I usually make writing focused videos, but today we're making a writing adjacent art video. I got a really exciting message on Discord yesterday. My very good friend and fellow author tuber Wallis, also future author, or I guess current author of the futurely to be published book, A Dark and Secret Magic, contacted me yesterday asking if she could commission me to make some merch for her book. I know, right? Unbelievable. I don't normally offer commissions, but I could not turn this down. Like, hell yes, do I want to make merch for Dark and Secret Magic? Like, yes, please. I'll do it for free. Just give me the project. There was quite a lot of excited bouncing around the kitchen like a crazy person after I got the message, and in about half an hour, I've got a meeting with her where we are going to be discussing what I'm making. Well, I normally have with these sort of things, like if I'm making multiple illustrations of something in a specific style, the first one will always take me like the longest amount of time. I mean, I'm nowhere close to publication and I already have a list of merch ideas in my Notion, so like, yeah, this is fun. Hello there, happy Monday. I have at this point had not one, but two meetings with Wallis, and we have decided, drum roll please, we are going to be making acrylic pins with designs that use quotes from the book as well as imagery from the book. This idea is very much inspired by the very first A Dark and Secret Magic fan art I did for Wallis as a gift back when it was called This Book is for October. And we're basically doing something similar to this, except digitally and as a pin that you can like put on your clothing or use as a keychain or stuff like that. Which, first of all, the idea that something that I've drawn will end up in a physical pin that people can put on clothes or bags and things. Insane. That is such a cool concept, and I still can't believe that this is happening. On a less exciting note, it has been over a week since my last meeting with Wallis, and I haven't started working on these yet. Why have I not started working on these when I am absolutely ecstatically excited about this project? Well, I have been having a rough time with this. I wasn't sure if I wanted to talk about this in this video because this is such a cool project that I want the video to be happy and exciting and stuff, but like, this is just what's going on. I have been really struggling with imposter syndrome, and I knew that I was gonna struggle working on this during the week, so I gave myself that permission to like, okay, I'll do this project during the weekend when I have a bit more time. And I spent the entire weekend procrastinating, and I also felt bad by the fact that I wasn't doing this, so then I wasn't doing anything else either. I spent most of the weekend just sitting on the sofa reading. And I know why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I'm scared. Like, this is the first time that I'm getting money in return for art, which is making the imposter syndrome side of my brain really go haywire. I'm so scared that as soon as I put pen to paper, I'm going to realize that I do not have the skills to put this idea into practice, that there is no way that anything I can draw could ever be good enough, not just to be put into a pin, but also to get paid for this to be put into a pin. Like, it's been a lot, but I'm still super excited about the project. Like, I really want to do this. There's just that side of my brain that's like self-sabotaging me, and like every time I think about starting and like sitting down to draw something, it's just like, nope, let's not do that. But saying all of that, we are not allowing my life to be ruled by my own insecurities. We are going to push past this. So I am going to sit myself down. I'm gonna open my sketchbook and I'm just gonna doodle a couple of ideas. I'm gonna like pick whichever pin design request is easiest and just start with that, and just, I'm not gonna take my tablet out. We're gonna keep it super simple, do it in my sketchbook for now and then do it digitally later, and we're just gonna design some ideas. We're not designing anything, we're brainstorming. Hello there, happy Saturday. I spent Monday to Friday trying to just doodle out some of the designs and just try and brainstorm a little bit in my sketchbook. I was aiming to do at least half an hour a day during the week. I don't think I succeeded every day, but at least we've got something to work from now. I've got 2 designs that I think I'm set on. The cat one went really badly, but I think that's just my inability to draw cats rather than the composition being off. So I think my next attempt at that will be digital, but I want to do some cat anatomy studies before I attempt a proper version of that. And then the other one that I designed was the forest one, which I had a couple of questions for Wallis about that one. She hasn't actually gotten back to me yet, but I think I can still just go ahead and do a digital sketch and maybe just like a first attempt at line art for that one and send it to her, and then hopefully that will help her make a decision on the question I asked her. Yeah, I'm particularly excited about the forest one though. I think that's the one that I was looking forward to doing the most. I think it's quite simple, like it is really just leaves, but I think it can look really good if I do it well. I've just finished a sketch of the very first pin, and I both really like it and I'm a little bit overwhelmed by it. Like, I think it works really nicely as a sketch. I think the composition works really well. I'm very happy with how it turned out. But there's quite a lot of detail here. There's a few bits that I haven't quite figured out, a little bit all over the place. And I think doing the line art is going to take a really long time. But at least the imposter syndrome part of my brain is no longer giving me trouble. Now the, oh shit, this is actually a lot of work part of my brain is giving me trouble. I also think that even though I said I was gonna start with the easiest one, I don't think this was the easiest one. I think this was probably one of the harder ones, but alas, let's keep going. For this first design, I started by looking up which types of tree grow in Ipswich Forest and just starting to get an idea of what different types of leaf shapes and colors you might be able to find here in autumn. This of course immediately sent me down a rabbit hole, which put me in the best autumnal mood despite the fact that I was doing this in June. I thought it'd be really fun to play with a gradient of sort of red to orange to yellow, while setting up little clusters of leaves of different types growing next to each other and just overlapping each other. Since these illustrations were designed to be made as acrylic pins, I was particularly excited about this concept as I think it's gonna work really well in showing off the transparency of this medium. When I originally started looking around for other acrylic pins to get an idea of what styles would work well, something that I really gravitated towards was pins that actually show off some of that transparency and use that as part of the designs, because I feel like this transparency is very specific to this medium. It's not something you would see on a normal painting that's printed on paper. I think it's just very cool to play with that, so I wanted to make sure to take advantage of that here. And this concept of overlapping leaves, leaving gaps in between the different leaves works really well with that, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how this design is going to look when it gets actually manufactured in the medium it was designed for. I gotta say I was not prepared for how long it was going to take me to draw out each of the individual leaves. It took quite a long time, and every time I changed from one leaf design to a different one, I thought like this is gonna be really hard. I'm not gonna know how to draw this type of leaf now because it's different and I have to relearn it all over again. Because this was the first illustration I was working on, my imposter syndrome was going all over the place, but I'm really happy with how it turned out overall. Hello there, happy Sunday. Unfortunately, last weekend when I was filming the process of this forest pin, my camera ran out of memory, at which point I couldn't be bothered fixing it. Like, I moved footage around so many times at that point that I was just getting tired of it. So I switched to recording my screen using screen recording software, and I managed to record the wrong screen for about a total of 3 hours. So I now have 3 hours worth of footage of me changing between different tabs with Google image photos of different trees, and no recording of my actual screen of what I was drawing. So that's what we've got, but this is how far I got last week, and I am genuinely so happy with how this is going. It looks so cute. I'm so pleased with it. I am so proud of the fact that I managed to implement this like this. I didn't think I could pull it off, and I think I have, or at least it's on the right track. I am hoping to finish coloring this morning. I was considering this morning how much time I have left, because originally Wallis said that she wanted these by mid-July, but I'm going to Spain for the first 2 weeks in July, which means really this needs to be done by the end of the month. It is the 16th of June at the minute, I think, and I have today's Sunday, I have next weekend, I have both Saturday and Sunday available, and then the weekend after that I've got plans on Saturday again, so I only have Sunday, which means I've got 4 full days. Seeing how it's been like 3 weeks and all I've got is half a pin, that's not looking promising, but I think we can do this. I can't get over how cute that looks. I am so happy with it. Look at it. It's a thing. And I made it. So moving on to the next thing now, which is exciting. I think because it's 2 p.m. on Sunday already and I really wanted to make some noticeable progress on this today, I am going to go for the easiest one, which is going to be the pumpkin one. It's only easiest because it's basically something I've already done in watercolors, and I'm going to be tweaking it because I don't think the composition of what I did originally works for a pen, so I'm gonna play around with that to make it a bit more condensed, something that's not gonna snap off. But I'm gonna doodle around in my sketchbook for a tiny bit first, and then we're gonna try and do at least the line out. I think it's feasible. We are interrupting your scheduled art content with a very important update. My lettuce leaves are finally ready for the first harvest, and we're gonna make ourselves a salad. A homegrown salad. After eating some delicious homegrown leaves for dinner, it was time to get back to coloring my pumpkin illustration. This one was probably the easiest one for me. I really enjoyed it. It was very similar to the watercolor one I'd previously done for Wallis. I've drawn a lot of pumpkins in my time. Pumpkins are not particularly difficult, and it was really nice that I was able to just do this one quickly, be happy with how it turned out. The rosemary did take me a little bit longer to get right, but even that wasn't actually that difficult once I figured out sort of what method I wanted to use, and I was able to finish the whole illustration pretty much just in one afternoon and evening minus shading, which honestly was such a confidence boost after how behind I felt like I was falling with the autumn illustration. Being able to get this one down so quickly just made me feel better about the upcoming other two illustrations that I was slowly running out of time for at this point. I am so happy with how the little pumpkin illustration turned out. I was a little bit hesitant of it at first when I did all the coloring and it just felt a bit flat. After I added shading, I think it looks so much better now. The only problem is now I have to add shading to the previous one with the leaves as well to make them match so they're in the same style. But I think that's fine because that's gonna really elevate the leaf one as well. Part of the reason I was trying to stick with flat colors was that my original intention was for these to be enamel pins instead of acrylic, and those require lines in between every color change. But we're not doing that anymore, so I don't need to restrict myself like that. I can do color changes if I want to. This morning I started brainstorming the next illustration, and this is what I've come up with so far. So the next one's The Season of Mist and Magic, and Wallis wanted a bubbling cauldron with some spices, and she didn't pick the spices. She told me I could pick whatever. She did suggest lavender, thyme and sage. This one is the composition I ended up deciding on. Probably gonna tweak it around digitally a little bit more. I think I'm happy with it. I think I'm gonna have like the big cauldron, and then I want the steam and the bubbles from the cauldron to be close to the word mist, and then I want all the spices and leaves and other bits to be close to the word magic instead. I think that's gonna really add to it. Yeah, I'm excited. Let's brew some spices. For this illustration, one of the main things I got to play around with when designing the concept was actually being able to select the herbs that accompany the bubbling cauldron. Wallis originally suggested lavender, sage and thyme as examples, but he did say that those were just examples and that I could pick whatever I wanted, which gave me a lot of freedom to play with. There were two main criteria that I used to select the herbs, the first one being how distinct and easy to recognize these are, and the second one being what colors they use. While I'm working on these illustrations separately, I'm always trying to remember that they're part of a set and that they will most likely be sold together. So I wanted to make sure that when you look at two of them separately, you can immediately tell that they're part of the same group. A really easy way of doing this has been making sure that the banner is always consistent, so while I'm redrawing it, I'm making a note of the line thickness to make sure it's always the same line thickness, and it just still follows the same sort of patterns, and of course it's the same color. But I wanted to go a little bit further than that and make sure that the rest of the illustration is also color coordinated with the other ones in the series. So I was really intentional about picking the herbs that would allow me to do this in the easiest way. For example, Wallis had already mentioned lavender, which is actually perfect because I can use the same shade of purple that I used on the rosemary stems on the lavender petals. And that just immediately lets you see that the two illustrations sort of belong together when they have that common color. On top of this, I decided to add some ginger so I could have a splash of yellow that's also the same yellow I used on the leaves illustration. The saffron flowers have hints of yellow and orange inside the actual pollen bit, so that also ties it together. And then I made sure that the greens that I used on the sage and the parsley came directly from the different shades of the rosemary leaves. I ended up tweaking this one a lot. I changed my mind about what spices to include a couple of times. For example, I had some anise pods that I got rid of, and I sort of squished everything together a bit so that it felt a little bit more messy and sort of top of each other rather than as separate clusters like the autumn leaves. I think that works better for this particular one. But what this ended up doing was my layer structure was a bit all over the place because I changed my mind as to what was in front and what was behind a couple of times, which made it a bit difficult to figure out things when it came to shading. Could probably have done with tidying that up a bit more. But I think shuffling things around and making everything closer together was definitely worth the effort. I think it looks a little bit better than my original design. Hello there, it may not feel like it to you, but it's been a while. It's currently the 20th of July and I wasn't able to finish the 4 illustrations I wanted to do by the end of June. Part of it was my boyfriend getting quite sick towards the end of the month and that being quite stressful. So towards the end of the last few illustrations you might have noticed that I wasn't really vlogging. I still captured quite a lot of the drawing process, so you'll have some of that, but there wasn't a lot of time for me to sit down and talk to you because I was doing a billion other things. But this is how far we got at the end of June. I finished 3 out of 4 illustrations and then I went to Spain for 2 weeks. Originally I had discussed with Wallis for my deadline to be around mid-July, which isn't a very specific date, but I did know that that meant before July for me because I knew I was going to be traveling in July. Fortunately, Wallis is a wonderful and lovely client and absolutely did not mind, and she has given me until the end of this week, which is when I flew back from Spain. So I've got this weekend to do the 4th and final illustration. Hopefully that should be more than enough time. The cat was the one that I was the most scared about, the least certain that I have the skills to pull it off. However, While I was in Spain, I couldn't do any digital drawing because I didn't have my computer and my tablet, but I could do sketchbooking. And I have been trying to teach myself how to draw cats while I was on holidays, and I'm hoping to put those skills to practice today. Despite my extra homework over the holidays, when I sat down to start on this cat illustration, I really wasn't feeling confident at all in my cat anatomy skills. To try and combat this a little bit, I tried to play with a composition that would make my life as easy as possible. I hid some of the shapes I was least comfortable, like that weird bend in the cat's back behind the banner, and I also went for as simple a pose as I could get away with. I ended up with a reference where the paws were completely covered by the tail, which works really well for me because I cannot draw cat paws for the life of me. Funnily enough, I actually really struggled with the banner design for this one as well. I only had 2 short words to work with here, so it was a lot harder to get some nice long dynamic shapes like I had on some of the other illustrations without then making it feel too big for the quote. But then when I had it too small, it didn't really feel like it matched the rest of the illustrations, and it just felt a bit small and silly. So I think I ended up with a bit of a happy medium sort of stage, but this is definitely the banner that gave me the most trouble. But once I had settled on a composition that I was happy with, the rest of the process actually flowed surprisingly easy. I continued to maintain that color coordination between the different designs. In this case, I'm reusing the cauldron grey for the cat, and then the red and orange from the autumn illustration for some of the details like the color in the eyes. There weren't really a lot of colors in this one that come into play, but I think because we have that cauldron that's also black, it does feel sort of like it's part of the whole thing. I think a white cat with orange spots would have looked amazing here with the black witch's hat, but of course I can't do that because the cat in A Dark and Secret Magic is a black cat, so this has to be a black cat as well. Although I was very lucky that this cat actually does have orange eyes in the book, which makes that color coordination a little bit easier. The shading was actually particularly difficult for this one because, again, I am not very good at drawing cats, but I think it helps add a certain fluffiness to the cat, which the line art doesn't actually show quite as much. Looking back at this, I actually think I could have done with exaggerating that fluffiness a little bit more to help also hide some potential anatomy mistakes. I can't see any anatomy mistakes, but I'm sure there are some and I'm just not good enough to see them. Because, if there were any mistakes that I could see, then I would have fixed them, but yeah. But I think that I did the best that I could with this illustration at the time, and I'm happy with how it came out, I think. I finished the cat. It really didn't take as long as I thought it was going to take. These illustrations have been taking me around 5 hours each. This one only took 3.5 hours, which I think is very much because of how much extra work I did before doing the illustration. I think if I hadn't been drawing cats at home beforehand, it would have taken way longer for me to get this right. It's not my favorite out of the 4, but I think it looks good next to them. It doesn't stand out as being bad, despite the fact that this is very challenging, so I'm happy. And yeah, that's the last one, so all 4 of them are officially completed now. I have just sent the last one to Wallis, and I am so excited to find out how these will look once they get printed onto acrylic pins. And I'm also so excited to actually get to read the book. So I can find out how these quotes fit into the story. If you haven't already, I will be putting up the pre-order links for Wallis's book in the description, as well as any social media links to anything else relevant to A Dark and Secret Magic. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. This was a very art-heavy video, which isn't something I do that much of these days, but getting to make art and merch for a book, ideally for my own book, is literally the dream of what I would like to make content about on this channel. So one day, in 5 years maybe, you will see this type of content pop up again for my own books. And it's honestly so much fun that I got to have that sort of experience, but doing this for someone else's book. This video and this artwork just makes me so happy, and I am so glad and thankful to Wallis for letting me participate in her book campaign, book merch, book things, excitement. Thank you so much for also coming along on this journey and getting to be part of the excitement with me, and I will see you soon. I hope that you're having a wonderful week. Bye bye.